Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, on behalf of the Executive Board, I welcome representatives of our national government, the provincial government, and several regional and local politicians, and also the Mayor of Maastricht, Mr. Onno Hoes. I give a warm welcome to representatives of foreign governments, a warm welcome also to members of our partner universities and our business partners, to representatives and guests of the Hastings Foundation, and of course a warm welcome to the members of our supervisory board. And to all of our Maastricht University staff and students, representatives of student clubs and study associations. To our alumni, graduates and ambassadors of our university, including many of our first-year students who are our special guests today. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's opening is Women in Academia, Change Ahead. During the symposium of this morning, we exchanged ideas with various professionals and experts on how to promote the climb of women through the ranks in academia and how to promote diversity. This afternoon, we are very honored that the keynote address will be delivered by Dr. Jennifer Barnes, Pro-Vice-Chancellor for International Strategy at the University of Cambridge, who serves as an example of a successful woman in academia. Barnes has had an impressive career, from opera singer to president of an all-female college in Cambridge to a present executive role at Cambridge University. In keeping with tradition, this academic session, a number of prizes will be awarded by our Rector Magnificus, Luc Soete, and very specially another event. In 2016, our university will turn 40, but the first students began their medicine study in Maastricht exactly 40 years ago, even before the university was formally established. These first students will be honored later in the program. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a humbling experience to stand at this spot today, at the same spot where President Joachim Gauck of Germany stood just 2 days ago for his speech on occasion of the 200th anniversary of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. His message was clear. While the world around is in turmoil, while there is war and conflict in regions, while there is cause for concern about the stability of Europe, while there still is sorrow for the M17 victims, we need to stand behind our values. And we should be grateful of our achievements. And I think that was a very important message: living in peace, enjoying democracy, economic and societal stability. Maybe we should appreciate this more often. So please forgive me that today I will take you away from this grander scheme and use my time to look at some basic values of universities. My topic this year is quality, for a number of reasons. First and foremost, because this is the leitmotif of our current strategic program entitled Inspired by Quality, which now in 2014 has reached the midterm of its scope. And secondly, because quality has become a preeminent term in the current discussion on the Dutch higher education system. Quality of education and research, valorization and societal impact under scrutiny. And a number of reports have addressed whether we, as universities, do things right or should do things differently. Let me start on a positive note. If you look at the last academic year in particular, the Dutch universities have been doing well, for sure better than other sectors in the country. Our international reputation is excellent, our research is very successful, our education system remains attractive both to Dutch and international students, and our collaboration with the public and private sector is increasingly visible. And last but not least, our financial situation is healthy. Despite these positive effects, there's also increasing discontent about Dutch universities, also from within, by our staff and students. We must take this seriously. And some of these comments, that was backwards, so, are drowning in bureaucracy, overregulation and control. There's also criticism about insufficient alignment between universities, negative press coverage about every incident, the fear of marketization or other izations, and skepticism about university autonomy. Why is that? And who is to blame? For some, there's an easy answer. It's me, or people like me, executive boards of universities that are sketched by some as power-hungry, non-academic, valorization fetishists. So what pictures come to mind, in your mind, if you think about these university executives? Cold-blooded managers or non-academic freaks? And what are the pictures? Is this the rector, Luc Suter? The vice president, Nick Boss? Or the president? And I have been picking up the phone like that. With all due respect, this explanation to look for easy culprits is far too simple and misses the point. The current identity crisis of the Dutch universities has many facets. I strongly believe that the issue at hand is more complex, and the basis is the mismatch between expectations from society and the soul-searching of academic institutions. I can only agree wholeheartedly with some of our critics that universities are no cookie factories and should not become a heaven for bureaucrats, and that we have to avoid selling our ideals. But universities are also no Shangri-La where funds fall from heaven. Isn't it understandable that the Dutch taxpayers and their representatives in parliament, who finance the 14 universities in this country with currently 3.4 billion euros, 3,4 miljard, don't get your hopes up, ask us what we do with their money and whether it's put to good use? The answer that we as academics know best, that everybody should trust us blindly and leave us alone, is, I'm afraid, not enough. This last year has seen many advice reports and opinions on these questions, ranging from the so-called EBO study, to the manifesto from Science and Transition, to the letter of the CTOs of large Dutch companies, to a recently published OECD report. If I looked across these reports and statements, there appear to be three common concerns which put the continued quality of the Dutch higher education system at risk. A deficit of universities to adequately address present-time social challenges and define their role in society, a challenge to the principles of research and education and their quality, and a question mark about university autonomy and criticism of governance, overregulation, and bureaucracy. In short, while everybody agrees that things have been good or great in the past, there are worries and questions about the future and concerns by our academics about what has become of us, and if we leave our critics, marketing organizations, and camp followers in the place of knowledge institutions, that is what I define as a lack of self-esteem. I really dislike these generalizations. Let's therefore examine our own university before this backdrop, and let's do this with regard to the vision of our strategic program, which we have laid out 2 years ago. Inspired by quality. What are the key statements in this program? Number one, societal impact. We wanted to combine regional engagement with an international agenda from the so-called EU region to overseas. Leading economic, societal, and infrastructural development in Limburg together with our partners in the public and private sector. Research, focusing on societal challenges, but also doing good fundamental research and interdisciplinary research, as well as clustering. Education, we want to remain an innovator in the educational process, combining problem-based learning with the international classroom as the most international Dutch university. And organization, we want to be an employer that fosters personal development of staff and students alike, decentralized yet with a common strategy. Quite a mouthful of promises. But how have we done so far? So let's do some quality assignment. So first, societal impact. Regional and societal engagement is important to us. To further this strategic goal we have, together with our main partners, the Maastricht University Medical Center Plus, Zuid University of Applied Sciences, and last not least, the province of Limburg, set up the Knowledge Axis, a long-term collaboration where we jointly invest. And there are also many important players from outside the regional, knowledge institution, namely from the regional sector, such as DSM, SABIC, and APG, that collaborate with us. The Knowledge Axis was a promise, but now it has become a reality. I am very happy to report that the first project of this program have been funded by our partners and us to further our common goal to make our region more attractive in many aspects. And this is what I call the knowledge access formula. We want to stimulate healthy growth by looking for a vital population and also use triple helix campus initiatives as the culmination points of this development. And the first projects, they are not only focusing on economic direct return of investment, but also at societal return of investment. And I give you two examples. Movare, the Healthy Primary School of the Future, is a long-term project to investigate the effects of a structured program of healthy fooding and sport on the prevention of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity, as well as socio-economic well-being in a region of our province which is less well off. A project that with our partners combines societal challenges which once has been labeled in a province which has been labeled as unhealthy, the most unhealthy region of the Netherlands. And we do this also in collaboration with a lot of schools in this area as a joint effort. The Limburg Educational Agenda is a program to streamline education, and also here we've involved not only Maastricht University, Fontes Applied Science University and Zuid University of Applied Science, but also school boards of primary, secondary, and vocational institutions. The aim is to reduce mismatches in the choice of study programs and profession, increase the quality of teacher training, attract motivated students, decrease the gap between educational science and practice, and optimize the effectiveness of educational improvements. There are also other plans for the future, and together with a number of new knowledge partners, such as Fontes, the Higher Agraric School, and the Technical University of Eindhoven, and here in Maastricht, particularly the Maastricht School of Management, to go on in this triple helix spirit. Now, let me say something about the quality of research. Maastricht University has, as one of the three so-called young universities, one of the lowest amounts of fixed funding for research. In all fairness, our research performance has to be evaluated against this background. Because of this, our research output has been lower, traditionally lower than those of older, more established institutions. Nevertheless, it should be pointed out, while we score low on a Dutch average, our European research fund success is on the contrary on the rise, and not only above the Dutch average, but significantly above the European average. And this has led about 153 projects that were granted in 2013 with a total net worth of 16 million. So I think, again, we see a positive development. Our strategy in creating a stimulating research environment is twofold. First, we have decided to build up focus and to expand on peaks in alignment with the recent recommendations by the Dutch Advisory Council on Science and Technology. With the recruitment of 3 university professors, all of them world leaders in their fields, Clemens van Plitterswijk, Peter Peters, and Ron Heeren, and their groups, together with the Maastricht University Medical Center Plus, we have made a major step forward in further developing areas of excellence in imaging, regenerative medicine, and tissue engineering, as well as molecular diagnostics. But commitment to an attractive research environment also calls for supporting our own upcoming talents. And we talked about this in the context of our morning symposium extensively. This will ask for a review of our HRM policy, not only focusing on female careers, which was the topic of today, but on talents as a whole. In terms of research development, we have also fostered internal talents in a number of large-scale cooperative projects that bring together researchers from different faculties, such as Maximite and Eat Well, to projects that are flourishing already, have provided additional grant income and many publications. Now, let's talk about education as a third quality check, leading in learning. Much has been said about the boldness of the slogan, and not everybody likes it. What I like about it, that it can be interpreted in so many ways, and what it also means that as an organization we need to learn and adapt. And that's what we do. It goes without saying that as a university which is almost 40 years old, we need to review and renew our approach to education, and we have taken a number of decisions to do this. Number one, I think we have to invest in the current education process. It's completely senseless to always do new things without forgetting that the people who are already there need to have more input and time to do their things right. And this is something that we also should address. Then we need to think, is our problem-based learning system still up to date? Should we go for something that we call PBL 2.0? The international classroom is an important project that needs to continue. Also, we are currently, on proposal of the University Council, looking into also having a university professor of education or learning at this university. And then we have termed something which is called the Maastricht learning experience, because learning is more than problem-based learning, it's the whole environment. It's, in fact, what we do together with the city and with our region. And of course, two projects I would to mention, MIAS, the Maastricht Institute for Advanced Studies, which looks into new technologies to improve the learning process and the education process, and EdLab. EdLab will in the near future be housed at the new Tepijn campus. It will serve as a meeting place for students and staff who will be facilitated to initiate and disseminate innovative ideas to expand UM's leading and learning principle. Educational quality is to remain the core theme of this university for the next years and for the future strategic program of this university, which we expect to launch in our anniversary year 2016. But the Maastricht learning experience also has its needs outside university walls, as the student experience in our city must be part of a holistic approach to be an attractive place. In this context, the creation of a student and a city portfolio, which is the responsibility of Mieke Damsma, one of the city's aldermen, has been a major advantage for us to further the strong links between university and the city of Maastricht, to achieve the goal to build Maastricht further as a university city. Jennifer Barnes, of course, we are far from having the reputation of Cambridge as a university city, but given the age difference between our institutions, we have a few hundred years to make it up. Of course, there's also reason for concern, one should say, and I also dislike if you always bring along good news. But I will bring some more good news, and that's the quality of the university education system. We were very happy that the system was evaluated by the Dutch-Flemish Education Organization in 2013 by obtaining institutional accreditation, and we were under the impression that this would lead to an adapted Leiter protocol for the accreditation of our study programs. You know, these are some comments from this report. The university has developed an impressive planning and control cycle which does not only exist on paper but is fed by information from both the central and faculty level. And the panel was convinced that the university has developed both the necessary procedures and the adequate tools to improve the quality of its programs. I think this was wonderful news. What we did as an executive board, you remember it, we ordered 1,000 cakes to distribute among all our employees to celebrate. But then, what is this? This is a movie. Yeah? No, there are more accreditations that followed, and not all of them was positive. And the Dutch humanities evaluation posed questions about many of these programs in the country, also in Maastricht. Let me be very clear. We accepted that some of these criticisms were correct, but we also were surprised by the recommendations in several other cases. Let us look at the Bachelor of Arts and Culture as an example. This is what this panel evaluated: staff, guidance and evaluation, teaching methodology, curriculum, general aspects, and examination. And all of these were really evaluated positive, even the part of the examination methods. But you see that's the red one, the saying the assessment process of the final paper calls for improvement. And this negative vote would then put a negative shadow on the whole program. Let me be clear, this is not taken lightheartedly and a lot of work, and I'm thankful that the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences has implemented a recovery program, and that will be put into place, and then we are very confident that we'll receive the final accreditation in 2 years. But you know this Dutch saying, if you get a shave, you better sit still. This is a Dutch humanities dienst getting a shave. We have taken also have to take a challenge to respond to criticism. That's an academic principle. Peer review also calls for feedback on the review process itself. This is a necessary element of the self-quality control of universities. The Dutch humanities deans have already responded to that in the following way. The faculties take the results of this last round very seriously. However, it was also determined by all concerned that the recent reviews require a detailed evaluation. The clusters of the programs involved turning out to be too large and heterogeneous, leading to a lack of necessary knowledge within the review committees and an emphasis on the procedures and organizational aspects of the programs. From the program's perspective, more content discussions between direct colleagues are desired. So these are very clear and collegial recommendations. And let me add a few comments of our own executive board that should enter the future discussions with the accreditation agency, and these will be put forward by our rector, Luc Soete, but they're really on behalf of the whole board. And some of concerns, what is really the value of institutional accreditation? You know, there has been a discussion in a neighboring country whether this should be really the core and key element that we should follow. What are the costs and the bureaucracy of accreditation? What are the effects on the primary process? All the measures that have to be installed in our faculty also put a lot of burden on the primary process. What is the quality assessment of the evaluation boards? What is the process orientation? And I think also, as a university that is dedicated to problem-based learning, and as you know, our faculty, Vrijthof, has an excellent track record in producing professionals, academic professionals, getting jobs. This has to be approached. What is really the special role of problem-based learning? And I think, I cannot reiterate more, the need for dialogue. Academics need to go in a dialogue. That's the peer review process. If you get a revision, even if it's a major one, this is done in the common spirit to improve quality as a responsibility of our own. Now, the fourth quality check is about our organization, our university as an organization. As I said in the beginning of my talk, Dutch universities are faced with the paradox that we seem to do well on all kinds of parameters, but there's discontent with us from the outside world, but also from the inside. As I said earlier, there are a number of factors at the base of this. One is the increasing apprehension about university autonomy. While everybody seems to agree that this has been a great thing in the past, there are questions whether we need more control, more applied research, more topical management of research themes. Especially in this context, I would say that autonomy of universities is to be preserved. But at the same time, we have to realize that the price for autonomy is to take responsibility. Responsibility to make clear why our research is important. Responsibility as a stable employer in a changing economic environment. I recently have seen that the Maastricht University, Medical Center, and University are the biggest, or some of the biggest employers in this region of South Limburg. Responsibility is very important. We also need to prepare our students to take responsible roles as professionals. We therefore need to be open, while at the same time it must be clear that we as academics must remain responsible for the freedom of research and the quality of education. We also must not be complacent on discussions around differentiation and profile development, internationalization and science vision. No, we must take an active role in it before others tell us what to do. A good example is the recent proposal on the internationalization policy, which was worked out together by some people from the applied science sector and the university sector. I had the privilege to work in this group, and this now has been handed over to the ministry, and they have been surprised that we are in fact possible and able to do this as a sector together. I think we should do more than this, more of this, and more than this. Well, let's look back at our strategic program, what we say about our organization. Teaching, research, and support services are located within the faculties, with support service shared as much as possible. The dean and at the faculty board is responsible for all aspects of running a faculty. The primary role of the executive board is to facilitate the faculty so they can carry out their task as optimal as possible. But also, I should add, in the roller coaster ride of Dutch higher education financing, We at Maastricht University have to realize that while we have grown in many fields, we also have lagged behind in some fields. And you can see here a statistic over the last year that student numbers have grown, research funding has grown, PhD numbers have grown, yet our scientific staff has by and large been stable. The reason for this was cautious politics, because we weren't sure about our financial. But I think this gap, and we have had this morning a discussion on why are there not enough female professors. We talked about the leaky pipeline. So, you know, you start out with a lot of students and there's a lot of assistant professors, and then when you're at the board level, then it becomes less and less. And this is also a leaky pipeline, and we have to do something about it. We also must take clear actions for the needs of our students with the introduction of the Social Leenstelsel and additional funds that are returned to universities. It's our responsibility to invest them in education, in better education. This will be an important topic in our discussion with the University Council, the Supervisory Council, and the university as a community. Let me end by coming back to the beginning of my speech. The question about a taboo in universities, leadership, and how we are steering this process. At our university, we as executive board do certainly not recognize us in the caricatures that I've shown at the beginning, but we are supporters of the principle of collegial candor as proposed by Jeffrey Buller. What is this? I think it's our task to create a working environment in which individuals feel free to provide their perspectives and understand that you will agree or disagree based on the argument's merits. Fostering an environment where the overall mission of the institution, rather than the personal convenience of its individual members, is the guiding principle behind all deliberations. I should add on a personal note, there is no need, in my view, for alternative events. These discussions belong in the middle of the university, and I would like to invite the university community to lead the discussions from the middle and not from the periphery. We are committed to modern participation and consensus building, and not in top-down decisions at all costs. And I feel in my role often not as a president, but as the General Secretary of the United Nations of Maastricht University. I should also add, with all respect, that this University Executive Board, Luc Soete, Nick Bos, and I are not considering ourselves as somebody who came from outer space, and you know, I came from Berlin, that's not that far away, who jumped here into this university, but we are academics who have risen to the ranks and are very much try to be grounded in university. And I must, if I must use the term leadership here, I'm most sympathetic to the term horizontal leadership. And I've tried, I think, to be politically correct with the football shirts here, which is a big task. Queen said horizontal leadership, or vertical leadership, what's that? It's like command and control. It's going one way, top down. Horizontal leadership is best practice through trust. And trust is bilateral. You have to be good at trusting and being trusted. Leader is not a permanent attribute. It is a mindset, skill set, role that is played at a given time by a given person who the next day must play equally well the role of follower. So let me end by this, and some of you know I'm very much into the idea of the academic community in a university. So let me end with this cover photo of our new yearly report. This is us, a good image. Diversity, we're standing together. We try to take our responsibility as an organization, but also as honest partners with collaborators internationally and in the region. So I would say thank you for your attention, and be the force with you? No, with us. Thank you. In the true spirit of diversity, the music this afternoon will be performed by the quartet Men of the South, which has come together especially for this occasion and consists of jazz teachers from the Maastricht Academy of Music, part of the Zuid Academy, University of Applied Sciences. I would like to welcome Jan Formenoy on guitar, Philip Arts on bass. Are they here or are they somewhere else? I think they're coming, yes. Ron van Stratum on drums and percussion, And then, unfortunately, the fourth man was supposed to be Edoardo Rigini on guitar, but he broke a finger. And he will be replaced, that's why this is beautiful, fitting with our theme, by Nathalie Laurier on the piano. Men of the South and one woman will now perform their first piece entitled Blues. Thank you very much. I think the band needs to look for a new name, but they will be back to perform later. And it's now my great pleasure to announce Dr. Jennifer Barnes, Pro-Vice-Chancellor for International Strategy at the University of Cambridge, to deliver her keynote address of this afternoon in the spirit of our theme, Women in Academia. The title of her talk is Measure for Measure, How the Quest for Equality Confounds Diversity.
President Paul, Mayor, representatives of foreign governments, university presidents, members of the supervisory board, members of the university, men and one woman of the South, great warm-up, ladies and gentlemen. It is a considerable privilege to address you today in that suspended moment when summer has packed its bags and autumn has yet to move in. It is a time when universities reaffirm our purpose, what we do and why we exist, as institutions that define the future for individuals, communities, and nations. In that spirit, I want to talk about the women and men who belong to universities, those who teach, administer, and research, and those who arrived only last week, unpacking their bags in dormitories and rooms across Maastricht, the students of today who inherit tomorrow. There can be few in this audience that do not know that being born a woman puts you at a statistical disadvantage in life. By any measure, beginning with wages and promotion, to the unimaginable violence and inhumanity towards girls in certain parts of the world, individual women have hope and choices, but many from birth do not. The dilemma, I think, for the young woman today lucky enough to reach university is how she contends with this disadvantage, whether she ignores it, focuses on it, or works with others to eliminate it. Over the last 100 years, we have made progress, particularly in the West, towards a society that values all citizens. I was struck when I watched the footage of World War I recently, reel after reel of young soldiers, all of them men, walking in uniform towards the role history assigned them. The past century has continuously questioned the role of women, but I am equally interested in what questions we ask about and of men. I believe with others that the feminist movement is the most significant social movement of the 20th century. So what will emerge as the most significant social movement of the 21st century? That's not just a rhetorical question. Universities should lead the way in answering this, with analysis, proposals, teaching, research, and initiatives in their community. Some of those arriving to start their studies in Maastricht will soon be leading the way. And speaking of leading the way, the panel discussion this morning brought together an extraordinary group of scholars, exemplifying the energy this discussion creates, and also possibilities. As the lawyer and feminist scholar Catherine McKinnon put it, if you never cross a boundary, you'll never know it's there, and you'll convince others it doesn't exist. Over the past year, I came across a lot of coverage in the media on gender imbalance or systemic discrimination against women. I wasn't looking for it, I just opened a paper or turned on the television. And I began to wonder, if I were 18 today, how would I feel about the world I was entering? Difficult, even dangerous place for a woman, and at the same time, a fraught place for men, with women leaping over barriers in education, the military, sports, and politics, barriers originally set by men. This year, for the first time in history, a Fields Medal for mathematics was awarded to a woman, the Iranian mathematician Maryam Mirzakhani. In sport, the British women's rugby team won the world champion. But must this only be a zero-sum game? Must the growing evidence of the remarkable achievements of women be set against, rather than alongside, the achievements of men? But before I go further, let me explain. As someone who trained as an opera singer, the human voice holds fascination for me, not only in what we say, but the timbre and tone we use. That led me to research how we as humans deal with anxiety, self-doubt, or more specifically, what happens in the brain when we are placed under pressure to perform. First, the human voice. Our brains recognize familiar voices. A mother can pick out her baby's cry in a room full of infants. We build security systems on voice recognition. Voices are so recognizable that when we want to protect people giving testimony, we distort their voice. Actors talk about finding their voice, but this is also what universities do: take an individual and help them find their voice. Let's think for a moment about the singer. Much of early vocal training, if it's done right, is not so much about finding a voice, but uncovering the voice the person possesses. This is often painful, as the real voice may not be the one the person thought they had. And to complicate matters, because of physiology and acoustics, the singer is the only one who can't properly hear his or her voice. Others do. Humans, that is the audience, can easily pick out a manufactured sound, so the process of uncovering your voice is also about learning to accept your own sound. As the American dancer Martha Graham once said to the choreographer Agnes de Milne, "It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable it is, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly. Keep the channels open." In the university, a certain amount of typecasting still exists. The men get the low, calm, deliberate roles, while the women, particularly if they are speaking about gender imbalance, are left with the persistent, higher, dare I say, shrill frequencies. In the workplace, it is well documented that we respond with greater respect to lower voices. Many know that Britain's first and only female prime minister took voice lessons to lower her voice. But the voices around us are changing in timbre, tone, and content. Are we listening closely enough? The second aspect, what we do under pressure, involves biological and neurological responses. When I worked at the Royal College of Music, I began noticing the way different people, each with considerable talent, dealt with performance anxiety. Some turned to alcohol, others to cigarettes. The most popular and still is beta blockers. Others found an acceptance of their psychological and physical responses, and with that, the necessary courage to perform. I draw this to our attention today because in ensuring we find the best leaders and citizens in the next generation, we must look at the way we develop men and women in the university. In particular, we need to ensure that women and men have access to programs which build attributes rather than focusing on why, as women, we are having a difficult time. Recently, there have been lots of articles and even a book, The Confidence Code, published this summer, which says that what keeps women from getting to the top is their lack of confidence. I also hear in Cambridge and other places about the imposter syndrome, which is said to afflict more women than men, and is characterized by feeling, if you have actually succeeded, that you are really a fraud who will one day be found out. Basing programs for women on their lack of confidence bothers me. What a strange burden to place on young women forging their identity. Moreover, to be frank, what woman or man wants to be led by someone who constantly doubts themselves and regularly questions whether they should be in their role at all? We have evidence that when appointing senior roles, women are often seen as promising, but not yet ready. There is concern that women will not be tough enough for the job. If you compound this by telling young women that they are unconfident and likely to feel an imposter, you focus their attention on the internal, whereas the competition will be focusing on how they are going to personally progress by demonstrating how they will make a difference. It is stressful to be a young academic, always tested, finding your way, while being measured at every juncture. To be an academic leader requires strength and resilience, and could almost be defined as requiring the ability to deal with setbacks. Women, like men, are born with the capacity to endure stress. As one of my male colleagues calmly remarked to me one day, in MI6, which is the British Secret Intelligence Service, we knew most women were far tougher under torture than the men. It was the matter-of-fact way he said it that stayed with me, as if this were widely known. And it got me thinking, how different would the world be if we put women, not men, in situations other than childbirth, to withstand pain for the sake of the community? History has done a disservice to women to allocate fortitude, decisiveness, and bravery to men, and insight and compassion to women. We need to recognize that both genders have the capacity for all of these qualities. From the Iliad onward, the idealized man had physical prowess, no matter that Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, and Martin Luther King did not prevail by physical prowess, and Boadicea, Amelia Earhart, and Joan of Arc did, still, the ideal of the manly persists. For example, in 1902, when the diamond magnate Cecil Rhodes wrote his will, he outlined his ideal qualities for the future Rhodes Scholars at Oxford University. Rhodes, afflicted with anemia and a serious heart problem that resulted in his death at the age of just 48, chose criteria he could never have met. Candidates should not, in his words, be merely bookworms, but also demonstrate, and I quote, literary and scholastic attainments, success in manly outdoor sports, qualities of manhood, truth, courage, devotion to duty, and sympathy for the protection of the weak, kindliness, unselfishness, and fellowship. A few years earlier, Rudyard Kipling, who knew Cecil Rhodes, wrote the poem If for his son, describing extraordinary forbearance and courage, which, if his son could emulate, led to the final words of the poem, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I recall first reading this poem and finding resonance and inspiration in these words until the final line, when I had to do what I assume all women do, either feel diminished or quickly assure myself that if only Kipling had been alive today, he would have included this advice to his daughter. My point is that if he didn't, we should. I find myself worrying that programs that focus solely on women may narrow, not widen, our understanding of women. Why, for example, do some diversity programs frequently match young women only with senior women? Where are the mentoring programs that place outstanding young men with senior women? I'd like to see senior women academic leaders routinely mentoring young men. I know that in Europe, including the UK, only 1 in 5 professors is a woman. In some institutions, the figure is as low as 1 in 10. Across Europe, only 10% of higher education institutions are led by women. And these few women are affected by compound interest when they are placed on every university committee to ensure gender balance, which steals time from the activities by which they will be judged for promotion. I also worry that our attentiveness to what it means to be a woman in a male-dominated environment disadvantages both sides. Men left thinking diversity is for someone else, and women feeling uncomfortable about whether it means them or not. I am looking for a program that takes high-potential men and women and emphasizes criteria similar to those Rhodes drew up: protecting others, force of moral character, and kindness. Getting more women in leadership only fully recognizes our potential when accompanied by the expectation that, in the 21st century university, the role of professor must be allocated on more than the individual's ability as a scholar. To become an academic leader, we need both genders to demonstrate their capacity for truth, courage, devotion, combined with the ability to discover and promote their colleagues and the next generation. The universities that have professors, culture, and systems to detect the widest pool of talent in front of them will have the competitive advantage. Last June, I was in California's Silicon Valley, surrounded by tantalizing energy and confidence. Everything seemed so progressive and, well, so sunny as compared to the ancient, historic Europe where I have lived and worked for the last 30 years. So I was surprised to come across an online interview about the plight of women in Silicon Valley. It did not make comfortable viewing. In it, an insider described the venture capital community as a frat club gone wild and pointed to the 20% drop in women specializing in computer science since the 1970s. It was time, the speaker argued, to break the rule of silence. The majority of men, they care for women. They are respectful. They think about their daughters. They think about their mothers. The majority are like that. The minority, they went on to say, are not like that. There is a disgusting group which needs to be reined in, treated like criminals, versus being made heroes. Then a few weeks ago, my daughter showed me an article in the New Statesman. In it, the writer said, "A man complaining about anti-male sexism is the sound of a man crying about lost advantages, huge man-made thundering advantages. What do you do with this privilege? I think you let it go with as much grace as possible." These views are not new. I was reading this sort of thing in the 1970s, the exhilarating voices of feminist writers like Robin Morgan, Andrea Dworkin, and Kate Millett. What's new is that these writers are men. The first, the entrepreneur Professor Vivek Wadhwa. The second, the comedian and Cambridge University graduate Robert Webb. Could it be true that as Wadhwa and Webb contend, the majority of men advocate the benefits of gender balance? If so, That means a rethink, because the issue is not that men represent barriers to women's advancement, but that the attitude and behavior of some men need to be called what they are: brutish, aggressive, and discriminatory. And what's more, their male colleagues find that as unpleasant and unnecessary as female colleagues. Looking at my colleagues in Cambridge, I see male professors investing every bit as much energy and expectation in their female students. I see female colleagues leading key areas in the university, not because they are bringing soft skills to the workplace, but because they are tough, judicious, supportive, and raising the bar in their field. No, the key differential from my perspective is which colleagues have young children or infants, and which have no children, or their children are no longer dependents. Evidence from the US and Scandinavia shows that when trusted, affordable childcare is provided by the employer, the group with young children can continue to be productive. Otherwise, it leaves couples in weak negotiating positions with each other, their workplace, their children, and themselves. The universities that are first in having an equal number of female and male professors and dedicated childcare will also have the agility and breadth of minds to define the successful university of the future. As an undergraduate, I attended an all-women's college and have also had the privilege of leading an all-women's college in Cambridge. So when I saw a recent article in the Tab, our student newspaper, by a student arguing against women's colleges, I prepared myself to be annoyed. The case often made, she wrote, for these female-only environments is that they allow women to take on positions of responsibility which they would usually shrink away from. The thing is, there are men in the real world. It seems like every other week another high-powered woman releases a book or article uncovering or decrying the underlying sexism and overwhelming male culture inherent in her workplace. This is where I believe, she went on, that some of the elements of mixed colleges, which at first glance can seem most unsavory, come into their own. Anyone who has ever walked into their college bar to have the name of the person they got with last night chanted for a solid 5 minutes by half the college's male drinking society would find it hard to be intimidated by a room full of graying accountants. And let's take it further. What if you could start to see these horrifying abstracted images of the patriarchy as real people? What if you found them funny? What if you realized they didn't hate women, they were just having a laugh? What if some of them became, dare I say, friends? Then suddenly a slightly macho workplace becomes less of a threat and more of an opportunity. And she concludes, I am a feminist. Why? Because I am not stupid. I've never met this young woman. Her name, because I hope we hear more from her, is Charlotte Ivers. But I loved her voice, her brio, her tough sensibility towards the world she is entering. And when she gets there, she'll realize the graying accountants will find her a wonderful colleague. They too have a life beyond the stereotype. Which brings me to my final point. Yes, we must acknowledge the injustice and institutionalized sexism that has dominated cultures around the world for over 2,000 years. But equally, we can acknowledge advances that have outlawed and outmaneuvered discrimination. The children of today's women professors are never going to think that being a woman professor is anything other than how it's meant to be. And I hope that this century acknowledges not only the diversity of women, but also the diversity of men, who are increasingly longing for children in their 20s, bringing up children, sometimes on their own, and forming alliances in the workplace that have nothing to do with gender and all to do with affinity and respect. I see this already. I experience this already. Yes, we still have some way to go, And it's not just the women who should be left to get on with it. To the women in the audience, yes, do what you need to draw upon allies, male and female, to create a strong sense of self, realizing this may not come only from support, but surviving difficult, complex periods in your life. Remember that you cannot bring out the best in others unless you are prepared to own the best in yourself. And to the men, speak out. This is not a women's issue, this is a human issue, and your voice will make a difference. Finally, as we begin the new academic year, let us recall what it was to be young and just starting out. We cannot let our wins and losses with gender equality somehow lapse, as if our incremental adjustments are the best we can offer. We have nearly won the argument that says the loss of women in the highest ranks of leadership is a loss for us all. The English writer Caitlin Moran, writing in the voice of a 17-year-old girl in her recent novel, Building a Girl, has her young narrator say, "The deepest irony about the young being cynical is that they are the ones that need to move and dance and trust the most. They need to cartwheel through a freshly burst galaxy of still forming but glowing ideas, never scared to say, 'Yes, why not?' Or their generation's culture will be nothing but the blandest, the most aggressive, or most offended of old tropes. When young people are cynical and snarky, they shoot down their own future. When you keep saying no, all that's left is what other people said yes to before you were born." For over a century, women and men have said yes to full participation of women in all spheres of life. For those of us in charge or charged with finding the next in charge, auditions are underway, and the voices are no longer singing the same repertoire. In fact, they're writing new repertoire. Are we going to continue to put on the same old cliched productions? Or have we wit enough to produce something our children will see as a moment we made real progress? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this second performance of, if I may say so, People of the South. And this was a piece entitled South. It's now my great pleasure to proceed with the presentation of the 2014 Student Award and the Edmund Hustings Prize for Science. By granting the Student Award, Maastricht University recognizes outstanding cultural or social achievements by students or group of students. The nominees for the 2014 Student Award are the Student Council of the Faculty Psychology and Neurosciences for organizing the annual FPN Education Prize. Maybe you could stand up so that everybody can see you at least with this nomination. Gabrielle Ras for representing Maastricht in the RoboCup Iron Open. Gabrielle. The Gezondheidsuniversiteit, or the Health University, for providing the residents of Maastricht and the surrounding area with insight into the human body and human health.
Yes, there they are.
The commission that organizes the Rosalind Franklin Contest. The Christian student organization looks at Mozam for their active contribution to social involvement within the Maastricht municipality. Welcome. Katarina Hupman and Rafael Rutkowski for their dedicated efforts towards organizing the WE Festival. Where are they? There they are. Thank you. The Breaking Mass for creating an educational prevention film for students, which was commissioned by the municipality, the university, the fire department, and the police. Breaking Mass. The Student and Society Initiative for increasing integration and social cohesion between students and Maastricht's local population. Welcome. Priyanka Paul Chaudhary for leading the Green Office team. Where is she? There she is, yes. The committee that organizes the MOSA conference, a research conference on health for international students. Anna Michael for creating an entrepreneurship community in Maastricht through organizing events. Anna, there you are. The Stichting Koning Willem I for organizing the Maastricht Symposium. Gentlemen. The working group of Claudia Helmer for setting up an event that raises a considerable amount of money for cancer research. There they are. And last but not least, the Love Foundation, an open network of students, activists, and artists that collectively generate money to provide clean drinking water and sanitary installations for people living in rural Bihar, India. So, ladies and gentlemen, the jury has chosen de Gezondheidsuniversiteit as the winner of the 2014 Student Award. Rob van Gassel, could you please join me here? Just stand over there, I come in a minute. Rob van Gassel, Laura Fransen, Veronique Schiffer, and Yuri Voorman. And I think one of them is missing here with you. Why does the Health University deserve the 2014 Student Award? This project was designed by students from the Faculty of Health, Medicine and Life Sciences. Last May, the Health University started its 4th consecutive year with the human brain as its theme. This initiative offers the local community the opportunity to gain insight into the human body in an accessible and typical University of Maastricht manner through problem-based learning. Participants can share stories, gain a better understanding of health and illness, experience firsthand how Maastricht education works, and discover the role that the Maastricht University Medical Center Plus plays in prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. The Health University is organized by a board of 4 students, each elected for a 1-year term. It is an honor for me to present you with the award. It is with great pleasure that I now award the Edmund Hustings Prize for Science on behalf of the Edmund Hustings Foundation. The Edmund Hustings Foundation supports promising young researchers at Maastricht University. We thank the foundation for its continued contribution to science and talent development. It not only motivates and helps young researchers, but it also motivates us in the work we do to educate these talents. In addition to prestige, the prize also carries with it 15,000 euros for a specific project. This prize makes it possible for a young scientist to spend time abroad, which is of great importance in ensuring the development of the researcher and the quality of his or her research. Maastricht University is indebted to the Edmund Hustings Foundation for this prize. In 2014, the prize goes to a candidate from the Faculty of Health, Medicine and Life Sciences. And the jury this year was composed of Professor Dr. Jos Smits, Professor Dr. Nanne de Vries, and Professor Dr. Albert Scherbier, the Dean of the faculty. The jury unanimously selected Dr. Judith Kozemans to be awarded the prize for her research proposal on developing techniques to measure thrombosis tendency in small volumes of blood. Dr. Kozemans, can I ask you to come to the stage? To be eligible for the Edmund Hustings Prize, the research proposal must be of significant scientific importance, original, interdepartmental, internationally oriented, and it must be relevant and applicable to practice. Dr. Judith Kozemans' research proposal scores very well on all criteria. The jury believes that Dr. Kozemans' research is very applicable and has a valuable social impact. Her leading publications, her acquisition of significant grants and the awards, and the fact that she was vice chairman of the scientific subcommittee on biorheology illustrate the special qualities of this researcher. Let me congratulate you, Dr. Koosmans, on winning the Edmund Hustings Prize for Science. I hope this will contribute to a great academic career.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me. We're running only 10 minutes behind schedule, which is a new record for us. You know, we have a tendency to go over time, so I have now a very special moment to announce. Exactly 40 years ago, the first 50 students started their medical program in Maastricht. And the still, you know, for some people, incomprehensible fact that they started it before there was a university here. So they could not officially call themselves students, and the staff did not consist of professors, but of advisors. Alumna Yvette Bosch made the following video about the start of our university so we all can remember what happened here 40 years ago.
Dames en heren, goedenavond. Hier is Maastricht, de ROZ.
Een nota over het medisch wetenschappelijk onderwijs, waarin de regering haar voorkeur uitspreekt voor vestiging van de 8e medische faculteit in Maastricht, wordt u heden aangeboden.
Met deze woorden in de troonrede deelde koningin Juliana vanmiddag het grote nieuws mee waarop Limburg al heel lang zat te wachten. De 8e medische faculteit komt naar Zuid-Limburg.
Bij een geleidelijke ischemie hebben we dus te maken met een stenosis, vernauwing, een progressieve ziekte die versterkt kan worden door allerlei risicofactoren zoals roken, zoals de patiënt RS.
The block 1.9 was not ready at the time we as students should start that program. As it was a summertime, we all went to the public swimming pool Jekerdal for several days before the block was ready. One of the questions in the evaluation therefore was, what is the price of a ticket to the swimming pool?
You could go to a lab and say, I want to know how to do carotid sinus massage, for instance. We were able to learn that on ourselves or on dummies, and you could run the station and you got marks for it.
There we saw this woman, this cleaning woman, lying on the bottom of the stairs with a broom and with a bucket, and we started laughing when we realized this was fake, but then he urged us to help this woman, and I must confess, if this had been for real, the poor woman would not have survived our clumsy attempts at giving first aid.
It was such a vibrant place. In hindsight, we never realized how important that was for our education.
En ik wil beginnen met Charles Bauer. Het is prettig om met hem te beginnen. Typische Limburger. Relaxte werker, een beetje eigengezind. Via Sittard naar Tanzania. Veel geluk op je toekomst.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, more than 30 of these first 50 students are our guests today. I would like to ask them to come on stage now to give, and please give them a very warm welcome. Yeah. Well, I suddenly feel surrounded, and welcome, because we have seen you have been the true pioneers of this university, and you started in a true grassroots effort. And you know, we should never forget that without you, we wouldn't be here. And we are really eternally grateful that you took on this challenge. What must have this been for an uncertain time? You come here, you're not even allowed to call yourself a student, you are taught by people who are advisors, you have exams that are talking about swimming pool tickets. But you know, as we all know, you all have made a fantastic career, and you have fond memories, because I have, by some mistake, been put on the CC of your email exchanges, so I know a lot about you now. Very grateful. And we also have prepared something to commemorate this 40th anniversary, a special gift. And it's a collector's item, really. It's a special medal because in the year 2016, we want to produce a special university commemoration medal, which says 40 years from 1976 till 2016. But you get and I think all the ones who are not here, every 49 gets a very special medal that says 40 years, and the year is 2014. And what we have done, we have we will give you the sample, which is very unique for your hands. And in the spirit of Maastricht, I would like to ask a few of our current medical students from the State Association Pulse to come now on stage and hand you over these very special coins as our gifts to commemorate not only the grassroots efforts of this university, the rebellious spirit that we should keep also for the future, but also that you have come here from near and far, that you come here to be with us as our guest today. Thank you very much. Heel speciaal. We were so bright. We studied for 4.5 years. We graduated in 4.5 years. Okay, this one. Well, while we wait, you also can see there's one gentleman, Job Metzemakers, also is a professor at this university. That's the gentleman in the toga. No? Also showing that he, in Germany you would call this the march through the institutions. He made it all the way to the top. Congratulations, Job. I think also we make a photo, and I stand in the back, yeah? I would suggest, yeah? So. Do you have a wide angle, or how are we doing this? No, we should come closer together. Okay. We gaan een beetje naar de midden. Even netjes voor op de foto, man. Ja? Hebben we dat geoefend? Ja, kan. Oké. Je moet vast de hout nog. Als we vast een beetje indekken. Dat is dat het streepje. I heard this has been exercised, so just give us a minute, yeah? iedereen moet op de foto. Hè?
Ja, iedereen moet er wel op. Dit wordt het officiële portret. Ja? Komt ie? Ja, past ie?
Dat is een stuk veker dan 40 jaar geleden. Denk ik.
Ja.
Toen ging het makkelijk.
Nou, weet ik niet. Weet ik niet hoor.
Ja, past er allemaal op.
Nou, toen hadden we zo'n mooie tribune, hè? Ja, nog één keer. Kom maar. Die staat er nou niet goed in. Nee, kom op, even opletten, jongens. Ja.
Ja, ja, ja. Ja.
Het beeld ook naar bovenin. Ja? Zo,
Oké.
Oké. Dankjewel. We moeten weer door het midden, hè?
Zo. We zien elkaar vanavond, hè?
Ja, dank je. Tot straks.
Tot straks. Okay. Of course, there will be more special moments in our official 40 years anniversary of 2016. And this will be announced soon. We will have many very precious events to commemorate the start of this university and what we have achieved in the last years, the last 40 years. Ladies and gentlemen, and I should not forget to do this, I now officially declare the 2014-2015 academic year open. I invite the quartet and Luc put it correctly, people of the South, to give, and this is also a tradition here in Maastricht, the interpretation of our opening hymn, the European anthem, Ode an die Freude, originally composed by Ludwig van Beethoven in an arrangement interpretation by people of the South. Fantastic group from the Conservatorium of Maastricht, another one of our partner institutions in the city. You can see we have a lot of nice things happening here, high quality, and it's really a pleasure to work together and to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, I close this ceremony by inviting you to the reception in the foyer. Please stay seated for just another moment to give our Cartesian the traditional honor to lead the way in the new academic year. And with this, I would like to close this ceremony. Thank you.